Hello everybody and welcome to this channel. I am Jack and you're in the right place if you want to elevate your guitar playing. So ever wonder why when you're playing something and even though you're doing the same rhythm, the same notes, the same everything, it might sound 1,000 times better when your friend does it or when your teacher is playing it. They weren't lying to you when they said that tone is in the fingers or tone is in the hands. This is why when you play the exact same thing and they play the exact same thing, it might sound way better with them. So what's the difference here? The difference is what I'm going to share with you today, and I always share this with my students and it works so well with them, right? It does wonders. So hopefully it will do the same for you. Let's jump right into it. I'm going to split this lesson into lead guitar and into rhythm guitar. Now, I'm going to start with the rhythm guitar, and you lead guitar players, don't skip ahead. Here's why. Whatever I'm going to be explaining, I'm going to reference to that when I'll be explaining the lead guitar stuff, okay? So don't skip ahead. Watch. It's all going to come together. You're going to enjoy that, I promise you. And by the way, you can click on the link below. You will have a link, and you could access tons and tons of free lessons and free PDFs, by just signing up on that link. Just letting you know about this. All right, let's go. Lead guitar, rhythm guitar. It's all about the muting. There you go. That's the secret. There's no secret. It's all about muting, and it's all about knowing how to mute the strings when you're playing. So ever wonder when sometimes you play something and it sounds like crap? It's probably because you're not muting accurately. So let's talk about the rhythm guitar, for instance. All right, let's make sure this is working. All right. All right. So if you're asking yourself, like, okay, so Jack is just, banging on his guitar. I'm just strumming all of those strings, but only a few are coming out, and it's very distinct, it's very clear. Well, it's accurate. Well, basically, I'm using a left-hand muting technique for the power chords. And this is where it all starts. For instance, when you're playing power chords, and this is a power chord shape, you all know it. You might use the index and the ring finger. You might use the index and the pinky. It's up to you. But what is not up to you is doing this when you play a power chord. So I see a lot of students that come to me that's how initially they would play a power chord, right? Well, this is a recipe for disaster because you're leaving all of this open and prone to noise. So instead what we need to do, we need to flatten our fingers, especially the index, and the index finger is key. I'm always going to be talking about this. We're going to flatten this, and I'm going to make sure it's muting all the strings underneath. And I'm going to play the strings one at a time. Okay, this one we actually need, right? So, there you go. So, by just doing this small movement, I'm able to mute all these strings. Now, heads up, don't press too much, because if you press too much, you're gonna end up having those notes come out, and also we don't want that. So it's kind of a balance, right, between muting the strings and not letting them ring out, and also not fretting them, like pressing too much until the sound comes out. So this is the perfect balance we need. Now we still need something else. Some of you might have noticed when I put a power chord, I make sure that my index finger is slightly brushing the low E string, for instance here. That's how I can make sure that even if I play all 6 strings, only those 2 will come out. There you go. Now the same thing applies if I'm playing a power chord on the D string, so this, right? Well, I might use the thumb to mute the low E string, and I will use the index to mute the A string, right? I'm gonna brush it, slightly touch it, and I'm gonna also use the index and the flesh of my finger to mute everything underneath. There you go. So that's about power chords. What about open power chords? Because these are even, it's kind of the same thing, but it's a little bit different. We have to use a multitude of solutions here, and I made a long lesson on that. I'll link it to you in the description below, just about power chords, open power chords, right? And how to sound like AC/DC or all of these bands that use predominantly open power chords. So let's change picks. All right. How can I make it sound like that? Again, same concept. My index is muting everything under my fingers, And I might use the thumb of the fretting hand to mute the low E string if needed. Okay, here's an example. That's a power chord doing exactly that. Thumb is muting the low E string, index is muting all the strings underneath. And here's a D power chord. And as I mentioned before, I got to use multiple things here to make it work. So the usual thumb muting the low E string. And then here, I'm using also the flash either of the index finger or the ring finger to mute the high E string. Alright, so for more in-depth learning about these, you can check out the lesson. Now, let's jump into the lead department. Alright, so because this is where we also are prone to a lot of mistakes and a lot of noise. So there's two things I need to mention here. So here we have to talk about the fretting hand muting and the right hand muting. The fretting hand muting is similar to what we learned with a rhythm guitar thing, but the right hand is obviously a new addition. Alright, so let's talk about lead guitar line. Alright, and if you want to play as fast, or maybe you don't want to play as fast, but you want to have a clear sound when you're playing a solo, such as and have, you know, precise, clean, clear notes, then what we need to talk about is this combination of left and right hand. Let's start with the left hand because we've been talking about this. If I'm playing on a certain string, let's suppose D string. Right, this could be done on any exercise. As I mentioned before, everything under the string I'm playing on, right? So everything under that D string should be muted with the flash of my index finger. At all times, even if I'm changing strings. Now, different people will require different solutions, right? So depending on your fingers and everything, your anatomy, you could be muting differently. It doesn't matter as long as you're muting and it's not getting in the way of your playing. That's what you need to keep in mind. All right. So that's for everything under the D string. Now, everything above the D string should be muted using the right hand. Okay, this is where the right hand comes in. Now, a lot of people mistakenly use the palm muting instead of what we call the thumb muting. Okay, so a lot of people would do this, the palm muting. Well, this is a good muting technique, but this is for riffing. This is for like rhythm guitar, right? Right, so I'm using the right hand to mute and to get this gallop feel. Here it's actually different. I gotta bring in picking hand, right? Bring in the picking hand. And what ends up happening is I'm still palm muting, but now instead of muting with this side of my hand, I'm muting with that side of my hand. And this is why we call it thumb muting, because it's on the thumb side of the hand. Okay, and check this out. This part of the hand is muting those lower strings. So let's go back again to this line I was playing on the D string. If I stop myself here, right? If I stop myself and try to play those lower strings, they're muted with the thumb muting technique. Now, depending on what you're playing, let's suppose you're playing sweep picked arpeggios. Right? So you're doing. Now we need to bring in the right hand even more, and then you're literally muting with the thumb. Okay, but that's for another day. However, most of the times you'll be muting with, you know, this palm of your hand, or whatever this is called. Okay, and so the way you could challenge yourself or practice this and try it out, test it, is to play on any string, right, for that matter, but let's continue doing that on a D string, and just stop, you know, randomly at any given time, alright, and then try to see your muting technique, whether, you know, from below that index or above the index. So let's do that below the index. Okay, muted. Let's do that now above the index. Let's mute everything, and there you go. So obviously it's working for me. You gotta make sure it's working for you. You gotta make sure that you're not letting any string ring out. So there you go. This is mainly what you need to know, okay? And if you loved this lesson, if you felt that it was beneficial to you, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share it with your friends. Let's grow this channel, right? So I can keep giving you value. So if you need to remember one thing and one thing only, is that the index is our main guy. This is the champ, okay? This is gonna change your guitar playing forever. That's the finger that is the most valuable finger, let's say. This is the MVP, okay? Or MVF. This is the MVF. And that we have to use it to mute everything at any given time. And then if obviously we're playing lead guitar, we got to bring in the right hand so that they could start working both hand in hand. That's also another pun. I'm on a roll today. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next lesson showing on your screen right now. All right, take care, practice well, and see you over here.